Today, I have a true and incredible story to tell. It's not one of those neat little paranormal snacks. It has multiple people, multiple moving parts, a chase, a clean timeline, and a detail so absurd it sounds invented, which is exactly why it keeps surviving. I'm Alina, and this is a space where stories of mystery and magic are conveyed from me to you. In 1979, in Nottingham, England, there was a large park called Wollaton Park. It's still there. It's the kind of place that can hold a lot of ordinary life. Walkers, trees, children, dogs, the soft hum of a town nearby. And one evening, a group of schoolchildren were out playing in or near the park. Then something happened that if you put in a movie would get cut for being too strange. The children reported seeing small figures, gnome-like beings, and not just one or two. They described many of them, and they weren't walking. They were driving. Tiny cars, like toy cars, like storybook cars, like the kind of little bright vehicles you'd expect to see in a children's book. And here's where the story begins to grow teeth. The kids didn't just say, "We saw them and ran." They said the little cars moved in ways that didn't have any explanation. They described odd lights, bell-like sounds, vehicles that seemed to hop or bounce over obstacles where you'd expect wheels to snag and stop. Now, if it had been one child saying this, you could file it under imagination, misunderstanding, maybe a prank. Maybe a dream fragment glued into reality. But this report is famous because there were multiple children, and the school took it seriously enough that the headmaster conducted separate interviews that were tape recorded. Each child got their own moment to describe what happened in their own words, without the group shaping a single shared script. That detail matters, because it moves the story out of the realm of pure internet folklore and into the world of documented testimony. Here's the central scene, as it's usually summarized. The children noticed the figures and the cars. The cars approached. There were many of them. Some accounts describe a number around 30. The children became frightened, and then the encounter shifted from observation to pursuit. It's one thing to see something, it's another thing to feel that it has noticed you back. In the children's telling, the little cars came toward them, close enough to register details. The kids ran, and the tiny cars followed. That's the part that always makes my skin crawl, because it triggers something old in the nervous system. The part of you that knows the difference between a strange sight and a predatory moment. Even if the beings were not predatory, the experience of being chased is enough to stamp into the memory. Some of the children were reportedly shaken afterwards. The after effects are part of why this case continued to be discussed, not just the spectacle of the gnomes and cars, but the emotional residue. So what are we looking at here? Let's treat it like a jewel held up to the light. The first facet, group encounter. When multiple witnesses report something in the same time and the same place, it doesn't guarantee truth, but it sure does increase the weight of the event. People can share an illusion, absolutely. People can also be swept into a moment. But the case becomes harder to dismiss with a casual wave of the hand. Second facet, the recorded interviews. This is not a story that arrived fully formed on social media. It had a documented backbone, which is why researchers and storytellers keep returning to it. The third facet, the sheer oddness. Small cars driven by gnome-like beings is not the default imagination setting for most kids. Ghosts and monsters, sure. Aliens, maybe. But tiny, organized traffic of non-human drivers is specific. It has a folklore flavor, almost like a modern eruption of old motifs. The little people with their own society, their own rules, their own technology. That is not technology as we know it. And that brings us to the folklore layer. Across cultures, there are stories of small beings associated with the land. Fairies, gnomes, trolls, dwarfs, the hidden folk, the little people. The names change, but the structures repeat. They are often local, They're often described as parallel to us, not above us, and they have a habit of showing up at the borderlands, the edges, the thresholds. A park at dusk is a threshold. Childhood itself is a threshold. That moment before the streetlights come on, before the world becomes strictly adult again. So some people interpret Wollaton this way, not as fantasy, but as an accidental overlap, like two radio stations briefly sharing the same frequency. And I want to pause here and say something important. You don't have to accept any supernatural explanation to be moved by the story. You can hold it as folklore in motion. You can hold it as psychology. You can hold it as mystery. Or you can hold it as something that truly happened. Because the deeper question isn't were there little gnomes in the cars. The deeper question is, what does it mean that a group of children experienced something coherent enough, strange enough, that it left a mark strong enough to be taped, archived, and discussed for decades? Now, the next layer in modern fairy encounter research, one of the most common patterns, is not the grand theatrical manifestation. It's the smaller phenomena that repeat. Feelings of being watched, time distortions, odd lights, getting turned around in familiar places, and objects moved or hidden. The encounter isn't always a single cinematic moment. It's often an ecology of weird. Wollaton has that ecology baked in. It's not just I saw a thing. It's I saw a system, vehicles, multiple entities, sounds, lights, motion that didn't track normal physics, a chase, emotional fallout, independent retellings. It reads like an episode of reality that forgot to wear its disguise. So what can you do with a story like this? As a creator, as a human, as a threshold walker with a microphone, here's what I do. I treat it like a lantern. I set it down in the dark and let it reveal the edges of the room. Because the room is bigger than we pretend. Whether you frame this as paranormal, folklore, or the strange ways perception can synchronize among children, it points to the same thing. The world has seams. And sometimes the seams show the most haunting possibility is not that the kids lied. The most haunting possibility is that something noticed them. That there are intelligences or ecosystems adjacent to our own that we rarely perceive, not because they don't exist, but because our attention is tuned for survival, routine, and rent. And then once in a while, our attention slips. A child is unarmored. Dusk is liminal. A park is old land wearing a modern coat. And suddenly the world does that thing it does, where it becomes more of itself. Thank you for being here and listening to this fascinating encounter. I hope this story stirred something in you. If you have a story you would like to share, shoot me a message. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And remember to step outside and pay attention. You never know what's waiting for you just beyond the threshold. Until next time, friends.